panel, I'd have you go ahead and come on up. And there's no particular order, but we have some couples and we have some individuals. So couples can probably sit together and share a mic. For this service, we're using the blue mic for the participants, and I'll hold the black mic. And second service, because we're recording differently, second service we'll have 5 or 6 mics, and we'll have some audience participation as well. So Barry, why don't you hop over here? John, y'all get in the middle, and Denise, if you sit around Barry. So what we're doing today, for those of you that aren't aware, is this is just a panel discussion. It's not a normal thing that we do in church. Sometimes elders will get up and do that. Who are we missing? Robert? Robert, what are you doing? I don't know, you might be somewhere. Oh, he found his answer. Got his answers. But anyway, sometimes elders will get up, or pastors in the church will get up and throw topics back and forth at each other. And so, but this is a very good way to do a conversation on a topic from different angles. And we may not be able to do audience participation in this service. We may. We just kind of see how it goes. But what I'm going to do, Barry, I think, is the only one that didn't get the questions beforehand. So I'm going to let you start, but it'll be just a second. I want to read this to you guys. It's just a couple scriptures. And if you have children, you already know this, whether you've read it before or not. But Psalm 127, 3 and 4 says, "Behold, children are a heritage from the Lord. The fruit of the womb, a reward. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior are the children of one's youth." And then Psalm 139 says, "For you formed my inward parts, you knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made." Love that. And then Deuteronomy 4:9, this is kind of the crux of our today. "Only be careful and watch yourselves closely so that you do not forget the things your eyes have seen, or let them fade from your heart as long as you live. Teach them to your children and to their children after them." So what this really is today is a forum on education and the different ways that parents and others choose to do education with their kids. So we have some parents that are public school education parents, if you will, or have mostly had their kids in public school. We have kids, our parents with kids in private school and Christian school, and then we have homeschool parents. And so you probably have some experience in one of those. How many of you have experience in almost all of those areas where you have done private or Christian? Raise your hand if you would. I know Dan, y'all did.
I've been in it, but
parenting. Right. Okay. Who else? Anybody have more than one educational experience with kids? Okay. Some homeschool, some public school, some private school, whatever. And I know our panel has that as well, some of them. So let's do this, Barry. We'll start with you. Talk about your philosophy, if you will. And Barry has multiple. So let's do this. Tell us what ways that you have experienced as a parent educating your kids in the past. All of them, right? You kind of experienced public school, so if you will, just share.
So yeah, I've got 4 children.
Okay.
And we did homeschool for quite a while on all of them. We did some Christian Brook Hill school, and we also did public as well. So we had all three facets, all three.
So just briefly, your experience with it, would you say overall it worked out pretty good? Would you say, what were you guys thinking as you were working your kids through?
Well, so we took it year by year. Each year we, finish up a year and then assess and talk and pray and, try to see what the next step was, depending on what their ages were and what they were involved in or not involved in. So it was kind of a year by year process.
Okay.
And as they grew and as we, talked to other people and make choices based on.
Did you ever make choices based on the child, the particular child?
Yes.
Okay. Because I think
that
that's
had a lot of, obviously, you all may know we had 2 biological and 2 adopted, so there were some, challenges with different DNA.
Sure. So different kids went to different processes. Okay. Denise, you just tell what you guys have done, you enroll, how y'all have handled your kids with education. Has it been Christian the whole time? I don't recall.
I have 4 girls, and so from, K through 5, they went to public school.
Okay.
And then from 6 to 12, they went to private school. And I was only able to do that because my mother paid for them to go to school. But I knew I would prefer them not to go to public school once they got past 6th grade, because even in 5th grade, you could already see the influences of the secular world and all that stuff. And if I had had the opportunity, I would have had them private the whole time. But I know that they struggle transitioning out of public school into Christian school, because by 5th grade, as long as you participated in class, you passed. And 6th grade at the school they went to, they're transitioning them into, preparing them even at that age for college. And so it was a lot of schoolwork and notes and all that kind of thing that they weren't used to doing. And so I think 3 of them had to do summer school because they were so far behind as far as studies and that kind of thing.
Christian Heritage,
Mhm.
right? Okay. And all four girls graduated from there, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Okay. So John and Misty, you can work together on this. Same basic situation with y'all with Christian Heritage, right? Y'all want to speak to your experience, what the kids did?
Well, all 3 of our kids went to private school. Bethany went to Good Shepherd School from kindergarten through 4th grade. And then we we transitioned her out of there because she was coming home with, at 4th grade, doing 3 hours of homework a night, and some of that was just math. And so she was frustrated, and her daddy was frustrated. We had to find a solution. So we put her in we found Christian Heritage, and we put her in there, and she was actually beginning to like school. She never did learn to like math very much, but she was learning to like school, and it was a little bit of a slower pace. Whatever work she didn't get done in class, she could do at home. But most of the time, if they got it done in class, they didn't have homework. And school time is from 8:30 to 2:30 every day. And it's been a great environment for our boys, I think.
Let's let John speak to the boys right quick, since we share night time. What's it been like? What's experience been so far?
Just kind of the philosophy of why Christian school. Growing up, I went to Christian school 1st and 3rd grade. I don't remember much of 1st grade, but 3rd grade was my absolute best year of school for me. It set me far ahead, and really for the rest of my school years, I was always ahead because of that 1 year. It was public school after that. So my best year was 3rd year. My worst 4 were all of high school. And not that I had a bad experience overall, but I wasn't a strong Christian, and I was popular, and those things are bad combination. It wasn't where I should have been in life. So I really wanted a firm foundation, a Christian foundation. I didn't want where my kids go to school to conflict with what I'm teaching them at home. And Christian Heritage School itself is, I think, unique, at least in this area, in that it's an international school. So they're getting a firm foundation of the Word, but they're also getting a bigger worldview than just local or U.S. They've had teachers and classmates from all over the world, in country after country, and you don't get that diversity anywhere else. That diversity in race and culture, but it's such a unity of purpose in the kingdom that it's just an experience that I'm going to sacrifice about whatever I have to for them to go there.
Okay. We'll talk about the sacrifices on a different question. So let's give it to Robert and Jenny, and y'all can just answer this together or however you want to. What did y'all do? What age? The same basic question here.
We have 2 that are with us, and Taylor was public all the way through, and then Rena's homeschooled. And for Taylor, it was like, I could not even thought about homeschooling him. We would probably kill each other. But that was the reality that we had to face, no matter what was going on. It's like sanity versus this, and at the time, everything else. And so he did public, he did fine, made it all through. Rena was a different situation because her being adopted, there's things that we had to take into consideration from, when we're talking about generational and everything else, and things that she came from, that I had to look forward and go, okay, these are the things that we're fighting. And in what case, she was already, by the time we pulled her in 3rd grade, because at that point she was already being picked on, and she was quiet and timid and basically just being pushed over and not being acknowledged that she was in a room. And it's like, that wasn't going to help her situation, and she just was not a tester. She did not take a test. It stressed her out and everything else. And so it was like, we're not going to spend the next 18 years stressing about that. And so we pulled her, and her homeschooling is online. So we do hers. It's not public online. It is through Me Academy is what we use. And so in that, we're able to choose different courses and everything else based on what we think is best for her.
Yeah.
And not what the school's like, you have to learn this, you have to pass this, you have to do this, and it adds stress to the situation.
So within the homeschool, I think what I'm hearing is within the homeschool community, there's several different ways and tools within homeschool. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. Let me get Robert. Taylor in public, how did you feel it went? I mean, Taylor's an easy kid, easy to get along with kind of kid. What, are you glad, did you end up being glad you did it that way?
At first, it was kind of a little bit of hesitancy with Rena doing it because, I wanted her to experience the public school. But then in Winona, the public school system there was, you see some of the students that were coming out of it. It was kind of fell in the school system, it was fell in the students actually. And so one thing we considered there was the student-teacher ratio. And it was just overwhelming. She was getting, like Jenny said, she was getting pushed aside, kids were bullying her. We approached the administration about it, and they didn't do nothing. And, after praying a long time about it, we decided to go ahead and send her. Yeah.
But with Taylor, you had a pretty positive, what school district was Taylor?
He did Tyler and One.
Yeah, Tyler and William. So he graduated from William. Okay.
I think it was a lot easier for boys to go to the public school system, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, for Taylor it was.
Hold their own.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's give it to Kimberly. So, I know a little bit about Kimberly and Brent's, how they do their education, but so before they share, one of the things I want to make sure here and do, and I don't want you to start feeling like this is a let's bash public school. I don't think we're trying to do that in any way. We're just trying to talk about what we might have been thinking and experiencing and what each one of our kids might have needed. And that is our choice as their parents to look at the different individual children, and some may be more prepared for a public school or need it more. Some may be less. So I don't want y'all to think this is some kind of conflict or anything that we're trying to create. We're just trying to really put it out there for everybody that has experienced some level of education with his kids. So that said, you guys are homeschooled.
Yes.
Okay, share about that.
Well, we have 5 kids. We have 2 sets of kids, basically. We have 23, a 22-year-old, and then 10, 6, and 3. So the first 2 were in public school for the kindergarten and 1st grade, and then the other one was in for just kindergarten. And we had a bullying experience, and we brought it up to the teacher, and the teacher didn't really care, gave us excuses on, the kids' home life, and the parents were going through a divorce, so we had to just deal with, her being, picked on, and it was a really bad situation. And there was a bad situation that happened with Kyler too, and it was just like, our kids are not going to be protected. And so we decided, and this was right at salvation too. Right as we were getting saved, we were like, all right, we're going to homeschool, And so I've been doing it we started 17 years ago, and I've been doing it for 13 years now. And the other 3.
We'll get into some specifics in a minute. Brent, you were sharing a little bit of that with me before. Tell us about the getting saved experience and how that impacted you're, moving forward with the kids in education, because I can't not, right?
Sure.
Coming out of one world into the other.
Yeah, we weren't saved, and then we, like Kim said, that our kids went to public school, and during that time of figuring out what they were going to do, I had a mentor who homeschooled their kids, because thinking about homeschooling is very overwhelming. Like, what am I going to do? I don't understand anything about it. I'm not a teacher. I don't know what to do, but they broke it down for us and showed us kind of how simple it was. And so that, along with getting saved, along with the issues at school, along with researching the history of the American education system and where it all came from, and it's fascinating if you ever look into it. It's very interesting. It all kind of came together, and then we homeschooled. Now the two oldest ones actually went to Cumberland and graduated from there, so Kim homeschooled up until junior and senior, and then sophomore, junior, senior. And so then, Annika went to a real small private school for a couple of years, and now she's being homeschooled. So we've done it all too.
Okay.
And no knock on public school necessarily. I don't agree with a lot of it, but we went into it going into public school. We came from public school. In public school, I had some really good teachers and some really bad teachers, but the good teachers, I wanted to be a teacher because of some of the really bad teachers. So there are really good teachers out there.
Okay, so how many of you went to public school most of your life? You did not? Okay, I didn't know that. I think a lot of us in this room probably public school background, and I think all of us would agree it's slightly changed since then, the different facets of it. So let's run the mic back around to Barry, if you don't mind. And I think, Barry, you can pick any facet of, since you're experienced with all of it, talk about the positives, the good things about each one, or pick one or whatever that you experienced, as the kids were going through school. As an example, our kids were in Christian school. A positive was the education was phenomenal. Like, they were college ready well before they graduated. One of our kids graduated at 16 and went to college as well. So that was one for me. A negative is the money and what it costs. So that's an example.
Well, homeschool, like I said, most of our, early on, the kids basically went through about 8th or 9th grade through homeschooling. So that was the majority of their education. It was positive, very positive. They got what they needed. Crystal could tailor it to each child. They're all different. We had, like I said, we had different situations with our kids, so she could focus on certain kids a certain way, and so that was good. We were also part of I don't know if you guys were part of it or not with your homeschool, but a co-op group. There's some really good co-op groups in this area.
Can you talk about that a little bit? What is a co-op group?
A co-op group is a group of homeschool families that come together, and basically they meet once a week on a Tuesday or Wednesday. Our group, it's a pretty good sized group, met at Pine Cove, and they opened up some areas for them to come together, and the kids it was basically school that was with homeschool, mostly moms that were teaching certain subjects that maybe if you weren't really good at math and one of the homeschool mothers were really good at math, they would kind of have a math session or a science session or whatever. So that was positive. The kids got to do things with other kids, and, do that kind of deal. So the other private school and public school, there's some positives there too for what our kids do. But I think the majority of it was the positive.
Okay. What was the negative? Homeschool.
Probably wearing down Christmas.
Mom got wore out? Yeah, okay. I think that might be a common thing too. So just positives and negatives of your experiences.
Okay, the positives for me were that, like John said, there weren't conflicting ideas of, what I believe, what they believe, what other kids were believing. This particular school, they actually discourage strongly dating. And so they teach the girls, the guys, how to interact with the opposite sex without there being expectations. They teach them to respect each other and that kind of thing, because they're not allowed to date. So they learn how to be friends with the opposite sex, and their school is extremely tiny. So I mean, nobody falls behind because the teachers can see, they're not doing well. They're very proactive about, messaging the parents and being like, I see this is going on, what can you do to help? What do you think would help? Some of the negatives are, it's just kids. Sometimes they're still bullying, but they definitely don't tolerate that.
And cost, I'm assuming, because you talked about your mom
Yes.
helping you pay. Yeah. Okay, good. Same deal, goods and bads.
Positive, I would say the student-to-teacher ratio at the school is, the largest classes have about 10 kids a grade. So it's an amazing student-teacher ratio. It's a school that's really is a community. They had like a talent show a couple weeks ago that had 17 acts that people volunteered for. It was a lot of either classmates all getting together and doing an act, or a father, daughter, or, we've had grandfather, grandson, and it's a tight school community-wise. So that's a great advantage. Again, the multicultural aspect is just outstanding, the wide world view of the kingdom. I would say disadvantages, advantage and disadvantage, it's a missionary school. It's a school that was founded for youth with a mission, for families that come from around the world and learn how to be missionaries, and they send them out from there. The school is founded so that those families could have a place to send their kids. And all the teachers are missionaries, so they don't get a salary from the school, they have to raise support. It makes it cheaper, it's still not cheap. So that's advantages. Disadvantages is that, one, you lose out at some of the options that public school would have. Like, my kids are never gonna be in band, they're never gonna be in choir, they're not gonna have shop classes. It's just too small to have that available. You're not gonna get the breadth of an education that's available. Also, the teachers, they're not, they haven't been to four-year school, most of them. They're not accredited by the state. So it's missionaries from all walks of life that have come there and they're following God's will to teach. So some of the organization that you would expect at a public school isn't there at a Christian school. It's, you're around a bunch of missionaries, it's kind of like fly by the seat of your pants sometimes. But
How many kids in the school about?
I would say 100 would be probably my best aspect. Another on the negative, to send the two boys this year is about just under $11,000. To make that in our budget, I work 6 days a week. I work every Saturday. I work 8 hours a day on Saturday, and I have my Monday through Friday job, and I work Wednesday evenings too. So I really don't get a day without obligations because I'm going to be at church and I'm going to serve at church. My only day without obligations is when I take a vacation. So that's wary. But, it's worth it.
Well, another thing on the positive side about the school that I like is that as far as public school, they automatically have sex education. At this school, it's up to the parents and how much you want to tell your kids and when they're ready. You don't have to just rush everything all at once. And I like that. I like the fact that it's not rushed upon the children. That they don't get that outside view of what they should be.
Okay. Robert, kind of same thing. What would you say was the best thing about public school when Taylor was there? And then pick something on the worst side as well.
When Taylor was there, Taylor got along with everybody for the most part. He had good social interaction with all the kids and teachers.
Was he, what, did he do sports band, any of that
He
stuff?
did band, yeah, he excelled in band, so he loved it. And, the cons was just, there was one time where, the bullies had a big part in there too, so we had to go to the school and address that, but, unless you went out there and talked to the principal and, made sure something happened, then nothing was gonna happen, Same thing with Rena, when she got bullied, nothing was happening. And so, for the pros for Rena so far would be that she's excelling in all that she's doing now. I mean, she's doing some stuff that just blows me out of the water, She's already learning Spanish as soon as she started, the homeschool stuff, so she's going home talking Spanish to me one day. Okay, I don't know what you're talking.
Robert doesn't know much Spanish, Quito. Okay.
But the pros for it is that, you can customize her learning. She has her principal with her all the time. And so, yeah, I mean, it's good.
It's good, good. All right, so we're gonna pick up the pace a little. Jenny, you're doing some homeschooling there. Hardest thing for you, and I know yours is a computer. What would you say to these folks about, this is what I find to be probably most difficult in principal or whatever?
The hardest thing was when we first transitioned was letting go of the mindset that homeschooling is supposed to look like public school. And that's based on what I experienced through going through public school. And so you're like, okay, this is the only thing I'm ever used to. This is what I was used to with Taylor. This is what it's supposed to look like in the honesty of this conversation of what everybody else thinks it's supposed to look like. And if it doesn't, the looks, the questions, I'm not really sure about that, and it's an underlying thing that you can just feel when your people are having conversations, like that's not legit. Like your kids aren't getting anything because they don't meet what this is going on over here. It's you can feel it, even if it's not from the parents or from other peers.
Yeah.
They get the same looks from them, they're not included. It's like, well, if you don't share in band, if you don't share in sports, what are we gonna talk to you about? We don't know. And you're being schmoozed over and you're not included in anything.
Okay.
So that's the most difficult.
I think
Watching
that's
your
a
kid
pretty
being left
real,
out.
that's a pretty real feeling among the homeschool community, is sometimes judgment, or, where people might be going, yeah, like you're saying.
Well, I mean, it really is a thing. We did, like I said, we did public school, and you would say, oh, the homeschool kids are weird. It's a thing, people. You truly get looked at like you're one of the weird ones.
Yeah.
And so you really have to teach a kid to overcome
Yeah,
being judged by other people and being secure in who you are.
good, all right. Kimberly, I think that leads in probably to some conversations we've had. How do you guys co-op / socialize, whatever? What's been y'all's experience with keeping the kids pretty active in other ways?
So there's a lot of homeschool play groups and stuff that meet up at different churches, different parks regularly. So you get that community, you get that 2 hours, once a week or twice a week, even if you get through your work, so we can do it, It's incentive to get the work done.
What do you think is the hardest thing about homeschooling now that you've been doing?
The single income,
Yeah.
you have to make sacrifices,
Obviously, you think it's worth it.
Absolutely.
You've been sticking with it all these years, so, yeah.
So, yeah.
Brent, based on what she's saying, and I think I'll key off of John here, and I would imagine Barry would say the same thing, is having to work a lot to provide the income, the single income, and maybe I don't want to say the distance between you and the kids, but like you don't have the time with them that maybe Kimberly does. And how does that?
That's true, but they're not at school all day, so if I go home at lunch, I see my kids.
Okay.
If I take a half day, I hang out with my family.
Yeah.
So it's not that bad, but we have had to make it work on very low income and now higher income and
Sure.
still driving an
Still
old
doing
minivan, so yeah, it's been difficult. That's the hardest part, I would say.
Yeah. What curriculum are you guys using, or y'all mix it, or?
Yeah.
It's called Christian Lights.
Okay. Yeah, pretty
There's
good.
tons of
Tons.
curriculums out there.
Yeah, I know Becca from the past and some others as well.
We've used different ones for different kids over the years.
All right, so for the sake of time, I think it's been good so far. For the sake of time, it's 9:48. Let's switch gears a little, and you know, if we have a really big question we need to answer from you guys, we'll try to get to it. But let's talk about, you know, your personal or family philosophy on what do you think is important for your kids to learn. You know, let's say Misty talked about the sex education part. I'm going to assume the Bible is something you want your kids to learn about. We'll just start with you, Brent. We'll work back. What are some topics? What are some issues, if you will, that you think your kids need to really, or all kids, but you, because it's your kids, you want to see them develop, and homeschool is helping in that way?
Yeah, I guess, well, we can choose what they learn, but we're gonna obviously tackle the big stuff. You know, they're gonna have their math and their reading and their language arts, and then we can add in some science and some social studies, and we can teach the way that Kim wants to teach.
With the cool schoolroom and.
Yeah, Kim's got this big schoolroom set up.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Kimberly, how do you do it? What's it look like at home? You got a room that's designated for class? Do they sit in there
Lots of
together?
supplies, I keep organized, which is kind of tough with 3 kids.
Do y'all do it all
We do
together?
a lot of, well, Naraya tries to, I try to keep her busy with something else or little game.
She's
whatever.
3, right?
She's 3,
Yeah.
so, but she's like, I want to do it too, you know,
Right.
which is awesome that she's excited for it. But yeah, we do it together. We've got animals running around and it's awesome.
Yes.
We've
So
got-
do you treat the room kind of like a classroom? Do you hang up?
Yeah, there's lots of posters.
Posters.
I painted it. It looks really, you know,
It's
fun.
the
and
dining room, so
Yeah.
it's
it's
become.
become,
Yeah.
there's tons of craft stuff. And
Okay. And you integrate online as well? Or do you-
not at this age,
Okay.
but I did with the older ones, yes. They had laptops and they worked independently in their room a lot until they needed questions, and we would Google it together and, okay, like, let me, you know, figure this
Yeah.
out with you.
Do y'all have
There's a lot of-
physical fitness type stuff?
I mean, they're in sports and
Okay.
dance, and we do
Okay.
workouts in the living room sometimes, so, yeah, we're
Gosh, you
good.
don't have a necessarily a PE or a time when the kids go outside?
No,
or
we
anything?
go on walks and sit outside and
You do
look for
field
bugs,
trips?
and
Y'all do field trips from time to time or any of that?
we haven't too much
Okay.
yet.
I guess moving all the kids.
Well, the kid, you know, Mariah just being 3, and it's been harder for me to plug in until now. I'm getting
There's an organization called Top Sheet,
Tashi,
and so they
Tyler area Christian homeschoolers. I
Okay.
forget the E, but education, I think, yeah.
They put together field trips that you can
Okay.
participate
You can
with
get
if
in
you
on.
want to, yeah.
Okay.
But we do it as a family. We'll go to museums
Yeah.
and science centers and all over the country, really.
So it's basically, it's all learning, all.
It's all, yeah,
I mean,
that's what
really,
you learn
let's
with
be honest.
homeschooling, and
Yeah.
everything is a learning experience. You
Right.
can cook dinner and,
Right.
you know, follow a recipe and everything. Going to the grocery store. I know people that, you know, here's $15, I need you to find, you know, a dinner, and you're gonna cook it, and stay in budget, and, you know, everything can be a learning experience, and when you take it on yourself, it's like, okay, you know?
Yeah.
Like, everything's teaching, and the biblical worldview, like, cannot be beat, and I mean, we have kids that are constantly asking questions. I'm able to just sit there and, okay, let's talk about that.
Okay. Let's pass it to Robert, Jenny. So kind of saying, what's important for you guys in your educational process?
With her schooling, it is online, and so basically it gives you a list, this is what they should be taking at this grade level, and it usually is like between 6 and 8, these are your options. And so I can look at it and go, okay, but then within that one, I can open it up even more, and it'll be certain topics under there. I can choose to do the topic, not do the topic, I can choose to test, not to test, go through all the things, set her grade level, she has to make this grade before she can move on. If not, it recycles, it starts back over. And so, we were having this discussion, and it was like, for me, basic, for what's going through right now, 100% is going, okay, 10 Commandments. It's like knowing why we do what we do, for what purpose, because that's just setting rules and guidelines for our house. It's like literally going, okay, it's gonna be based on God's truth. It's not even what mom and dad say. If it goes with what the Bible says, then that gives you a guiding line of what you need to and not do. And then doing the Constitution and that kind of stuff, just the way the world is with everything, let's get this foundation in. But it's more along the lines of, in every day, like she said, everything is a teaching moment. And at any given moment, the structure for mine is like she has to be up and ready to go at 8 o'clock, do her schoolwork. When she's done, she's done. And then she goes about maintaining, taking care of her room, her body, everything else that it has to do, and then building upon that one. And it's like, spend some time drawing. She likes to draw. Spend some time drawing, go research something, go do something that you find interesting, and you do the research on it, instead of being told this is what that is, and regurgitate that information back to me. It's like you find the information, and she doesn't understand what's going on online and stuff. Go dig it out, go find it somewhere else, instead of saying, because I know we were basic math. 1 + 1 is 2, and now it's like you need to build sticks, take the sticks apart, put it all back together, do all the things, and it's like, I don't get it. Go find the answer to where it makes sense to you, and then come back and do it over here, instead of being stuck and stressed out about stuff. So that's the big thing about maintaining it and being calm about what that looks like. So
Same thing for y'all, so single income, pretty much, right? So y'all dealt with all that over the years. How old is Rena? 12. So teenagers, almost teenagers, there. So I would imagine that gets interesting as well.
it does, and it's like she had this dance that she had to go to last night, and she experienced the bullying of my other one, of going, she's so outgoing and energetic over here, but then she was in a situation, all of a sudden her whole demeanor changed, because she was worried about what people were saying and doing. And so I had to show her, it's like, she has to deal with that day in and day out. You are blessed. You don't experience it day in and day out. You do experience it, which is very sad of where you're experiencing it out. But she was able to look at that and go, I don't have to deal with that. And it brought some kind of peace to the conversation of going, yeah, that really sucks for sister, but.
So, explain you had a dance. What did that look like from a homeschool perspective? How did that?
It is one of those things that we look at in the sense of she doesn't have that. That's not an experience that she gets. And
So how did you do it?
Well, we have a goddaughter. We did foster and everything else, and we were able to be in her life. And so at her school, she had a daddy-daughter dance. So she contacted Robert, wanted him to take her, and she invited sister to go along with her. So that's how she was involved in that.
Gotcha. I wasn't sure how that worked. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll skip on over to, you don't mind being skipped, do you?
Oh, no, she's from
Let's skip on for time's sake. I knew you would mind. John, pick up the same process.
What I want most for my kids to get out of school is character. I want them to graduate as men of character. If they can handle responsibility, if they love others, if they consider the feelings of others before themselves, that's self-control, self-motivation. Those are the things I think are core to what I want them to have. I don't think you can really be in school and teach them to be godly, but they'll be aware of the things of God, and I pray that they choose God and His ways and live for Him all their life. But you can't really, force somebody into that. But at least they'll have the base to make a wise choice later.
Yeah. Okay, good. Misty, you got anything to add to that? No? Okay. Denise, same thing. What's important to you for the girls, or was important for you for the girls to learn?
Well, I just want to give like a little back. I went to private school my whole life, but my childhood wasn't good, and so like I rebelled, I was wild, I did all these things, but because I had that foundation, eventually I made my way back. It took me a really, really long time, but I made my way back. But in that process, I had kids, and so they dealt with my traumas and my husband's traumas, and it took us a long time to get our crap together, pluck the sword. But in that, they got their traumas, and so what I wanted from them, even in my rebellion and disobedience, I knew that I wanted to give them that foundation so that when they finally did learn to get past the traumas that we gave them in their own and whatever that they would have something to come back to.
That's pretty good, yeah. All right, so hadn't even thought about that, but Barry, same thing. What was important to you guys?
Well, same thing that you guys have already heard, pretty much, a biblical worldview that you're trying to instill in your kids when they're young and when they're growing up, so that they have, like John was saying, the characters of Christ. And I think that's what everybody up here has been saying that they want to do. As a Christian, I'm sure the parents out there want the same thing, to instill that in your kids when they're young. And you can do it whether they go to homeschool, private school, or public school. It really comes down, to us.
So you're segueing into my final question.
I mean, it comes down to, what decisions are we doing and what time are we spending there.
What's happening at home,
Yeah,
right? So, I mean, no matter what's happening in school, what's happening when they get home?
yeah.
And so I think it boils down to, let's make this the final question, we'll just roll through, whoever feels like answering. What's the role of the parent in all of this? And we know biblically, it's like you're responsible. We are responsible for our children. Until they get out of our house, and even sometimes after that, we have the primary role in their lives. And so, you have to ask yourself that question, what are they getting at home? No matter where they're going to school, what's it like at home for those however many hours if they're not being homeschooled? And if they are being homeschooled, which is great, are those values, because not every homeschooler is a Christian either. So, what are those values like? And then, so Barry, let's send it back. You started, what's the role of in your opinion, the role of the dad, in your case? What's the role of the church? What's your view of the role that the church plays in this? Or is there a role that the church plays? So, I know that's kind of off the cuff, but.
Well, we've talked about, parents working together, praying together, being like-minded, having a plan, hopefully that being grounded, with biblical principles like we talked about, and then trying to live that out, with all the different things that everybody deals with financially and
The traumas
kids,
and
everything going on, but trying to keep, as the dad, as the father, as the husband, trying to keep the ship going in the right direction. I mean, everybody's been through it. You got stuff coming at you all the time, so.
What about discipline? What was your thoughts on that?
What do you mean?
Well, like you're the dad, were you the primary disciplinarian? And how did y'all discipline? Probably multiple ways.
Multiple ways. I mean, when they were young, we did, but nobody wants to spank anybody. But yeah, we actually used 2 paint sticks, taped together. And we'd have it in a certain spot where everybody knew where it was, You had to go get that, what was that?
Yeah. Okay, y'all grounded probably, and did y'all, what's the corner thing? Timeout.
We pretty much used them all.
Well, we had to stand in the corner with our noses. Anybody ever have to do that? Like us old people. They'd put you in the corner. But you never stayed in the corner. You're always trying to.
Looking around. You ever wore the duck hat?
Well, I didn't. My brother did. No. Same role of parents, role of the church.
Well, like I said earlier, we dropped the ball on that as far as parenting goes. But that's where I feel like the church comes in, is because they can help pick up that slack and still give them that foundation, give them, mother, father figure that has godly views. And that was one of the things, like I said, even when I didn't go to church, I made sure my kids did. And so, that's where I felt like, that helped. It gave them a place to be around other people and things like that, as far as like the discipline and stuff went. We did all of it as well. I also was a natural consequences kind of person, like as far as their schooling goes. I think once they got to high school, I never asked them if they did their homework. I was like, you can either pass or fail. I was like, but if you fail, there would be consequences. And so, like, even to this day, they do their own work. I never ask them. I see their progress report, and I'm like, good job. Is there anything that we need to do or help you with? When they get the progress report and they're failing, and I'm just like, okay, well, where do you think that you're not doing something right? And so it helps them to self-discipline themselves, because once they get to college, I'm not gonna be like, hey, did you do your homework? And so,
So you're of the opinion, which I think is an interesting and important, of letting the kids mature to the place to where they're kind of taking care of themselves with their education.
yes,
They need to be doing it, you don't need to be doing it for them at a certain age, right?
Yes.
You kind of turn them loose and give them some freedom in that.
Yeah.
How did it go? I mean, was it both? You had some failings and some not failings with the kids?
yes.
Okay.
I think pretty much by like junior and senior year, they were making A's and B's, and I never had to ask them,
Yeah.
I never followed up. But I mean, they knew that wasn't, I mean, it is my job, but at that point, they need to prepare themselves for life.
I think so. Okay. Bosses, what are y'all thinking?
Kind of what I see my responsibility is, one, living out, Christ before them. That, we get along well, that, we don't argue and fight much, but if we do, try to do it, behind closed doors or whatever. I try to love my wife so that they get an example of loving their wife, make them show the respect to her that I do, which, they're not good at yet, so they need to work. But I also have man talks, because there's a lot of subjects that school will never teach kids. So I try to sit them down and pick one topic and go over the biblical worldview on that topic. Our latest one was time management. So we went through about 7 different passages on where God teaches us to manage our time and to count our days. So, topics like that, or that they just won't get in schools. As far as the church, I don't sit in class. A lot of times I don't think I get good reports back out, but what I would say I would like from the church and the children's ministry and the youth ministry both is, teach them Bible, but make Christianity practical. Like, how does that story of David v. Goliath influence you on your daily life? How can you take that and apply it to the situations you encounter?
Yeah, okay, good. Got about 2-3 minutes left. Either one of you, both of you?
Pass that on.
Well, she's involved with a lot more than I am, so she has more.
Yeah.
input.
So Jimmy, in about 1 minute. It's 10:05. I'd like to, be done in 3 or 4 minutes. Minute or two, same thing, what's important, to you related to your role or y'all's role and the church?
Well, for us, it's a lot hands-on because your kids are always with you, all the time. And so there is no sending them away, having a conversation. Any conversations that we pretty much have, it's like we have to have them, so they have to be like mature conversations because she's watching, she's hearing, she's learning. And so you don't want there to be a lot of contradictions in it. But at the same time, it's like if we are having a disagreement or whatever, she's seeing disagreements play itself out. She's not going to be immune to what the crap's going on. Everything else, it's like, oh, this is what's happening. That might have been in a discussion, but at the end of the day, they're fine. And there's security in knowing that they're fine. And so I would say in the same realms of, as for church-wise, is for me, it's just seeing that homeschool kids are like every other kid. That, like you had made the comment, they're never going to be in band, they're never going to be in sports and stuff like that unless there's an extenuating circumstance that there's a drive for it. In public school, it's like, oh, here's you an option. Which one do you want to take? You got to take something, so take it. Oh, I happen to like it, so you move on. Public school, homeschool kids, they don't have that. And so again, in these conversations, they kind of like get smoothed over because they're not in a limelight. They're just sitting in a room and people forget that they're there.
Mm-hmm.
And so.
So how do you want the church to handle homeschool children, or any child, but
Well, any child, just see them that there's a body in a room. Like as an adult, that's something that affects us. You want to be seen in a room.
Sure.
Not because you're the most vocal, you're the most whatever, and you're whatever. It's just like, oh, there's somebody in the room. And just being that your kids pick up on that. They see it from other people. It's like, oh, I didn't even realize that was another world out there. It's like, ooh. but we train the kids for that.
Sure.
And I have to train her to see that there are public schools, there's different ways of doing things. The way you feel, don't let other kids feel that way. Be aware that there's somebody beside you.
Okay. You guys?
We believe that it's our responsibility and really privilege to be able to educate our kids, and they are there all the time. And I guess Kim does the majority of the work. She's there with the kids every day. She's homeschooling the kids, so I do what I can to support her, to reinforce what she does, take care of issues when they come up as far as disciplining the kids, which she has to deal with all day. Spankings kind of got old a while ago. They weren't as effective, I think, as I hoped. So really, at this point, taking electronics away is probably a big one. Timeouts, they seem to be, they can be.
Would you guys agree with that? Nowadays, it's kind of the electronics, you don't get your phone, you don't get your iPad.
Then the fear comes, and then they act right. So.
Yeah. Kim, on discipline, what works, what, you probably tried everything, what works at your house? Is it different for each kid than it was for us?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
They're all different.
So some,
Well, I had one that never got in trouble.
Yeah.
I think once
yeah.
she got a timeout.
Mhm.
My first one got
Every day,
all the time.
yeah.
So all kids are different.
What about the church? What do you feel like the role of the church in this is, or what would you like to see the church doing educationally with your kids?
Well, just be supportive. Ask questions if you have questions. Don't judge. Don't grill me on. Don't grill my children either. I don't know how many people think it's cool to be like, let me quiz you. Do you do that with all kids? Do you do that with public school kids? I don't like that.
What about just educationally? How do we support homeschool families? Biblically, of course, we're gonna do the
Right.
Bible part, but
Yeah, I don't.
would it be similar to John, where it's kind of like daily life? How does this apply to me, or is it more? Is it more the educational side, or is it more the social, kind of more the social side?
Yeah, social side would be great.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of kids though.
Right. So bringing the kids into relationship with each other and how to treat each other, things like that.
Yep.
One of the things that, we'll close with this, one of the things that happened many years ago now, we polled the parents, this was 15 years ago, maybe longer. We polled the parents privately and asked, what is it that you want us teaching your children in children's church? And we gave 4 or 5 different things, Bible stories or worship or whatever. And one of the things that we put on the list was manners. And guess what? They picked manners. Teaching the kids to say, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, thank you. And you wouldn't think that that's a big deal, but it is a big deal. And a lot of parents aren't real good at that. So that, the idea of it being reinforced in church, that a believer or a Christian is going to be respectful of each other and say, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, thank you, you're welcome, whatever. So I thought that was pretty interesting as well. Why don't you guys stand? I regret that we don't have time to do questions from the congregation. We will in the second service, and we'll go through this part a little quicker in the second service, and still offer an opportunity for congregational questions. So if you do have questions, though, we've got 15 or 20 minutes between now and the start of the next service. Feel free, I would say, to approach any one of these on the panel and just, open up a conversation with them about what you're doing or what they're doing and how they may work together, okay? Let's pray. Lord, thank you for the day. Thank you for just the opportunity to listen and to hear the hearts of our parents and to get to see the different views and the different issues that arise in the different kinds of education systems that we have. And thank you for our people, our participants, being open and honest and willing to talk and share. And Lord, I just pray that out of this, we'd be a tighter family, closer family, more respectful of each other and our particular views with our kids and education. And I pray, Lord, that out of it, we seek your wisdom, really, and how you want us to raise up the children. And we know you want us to raise them up in the way that they should go, and with a biblical worldview. And Lord, we need help with that. All of us do. Help us be good parents, grandparents, mentors, whatever, and to love the kids, no matter what their background is or where they're from, no matter what their age is. Help us come alongside our children and love on them. We love you in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you all so much. Can we give a little round of applause to our... You're dismissed and...